Let's cross over now to Washington, where France 24's Doug Herbert joins us. Doug, there are still hours to go before the first polls are due to close on the East Coast. When will we start to have an idea of who won, or at least how things are trending for either candidate?
Yeah, good question, Shona. There's a big difference between when some people think they will know who's winning and when we'll actually have an indication of who's winning. You know, it's interesting. The technology in how these elections are monitored is changing so quickly. This year, for the first time, you actually have a consortium of new media organizations who are monitoring exit polling data, releasing it in real time, and they say that they are going to be able to give indications state by state as the day goes on. That is, as people are actually voting. This has never really happened before, as to who's ahead, how each candidate's faring in each state. People have to be extremely wary because those indications will in no way, shape, or form give us the outcome of what's going to happen. The first real nuggets of information that we might be able to do something with will come in a few hours' time here on the East Coast of the U.S. at 5 p.m. Washington time. That's when the representatives of several news organizations who've been looking at all the exit polling data, they're all huddled in a room in Manhattan right now. They're going to release some nuggets of that data. But once again, we'll have to be careful because even then, it's not going to tell us who's winning, Trump or Clinton or someone else. It's going to rather tell us the composition of the electorate and what some of those electors and exit polls voters are saying about the candidates as they emerge, what type of voters they want to see. But as far as the states go, throughout the night, we're going to have a rolling sort of roll call of states releasing. Very first states will be coming at about 6 o'clock. We're going to have Indiana, we're going to have Kentucky and South Carolina beginning to come in. We're going to be having the big states are going to be 7 p.m. Eastern time. Most of Florida polls will close, not all of them. In Florida, obviously, being the giant state. If Florida were to tip to Hillary Clinton, it's been neck and neck, razor's edge. A lot of people are saying it would be virtually over early in the evening. If Hillary were to lock up Florida early on, we could perhaps all go to sleep relatively early on the East Coast. If not, we could have a pretty long night ahead of us. It could go into the wee hours of the morning if it's a tight race.
Now, Doug, you were talking earlier about these new media outlets. How are the traditional outlets trying to get it right this time? Are they doing anything differently?
It's a real science for the American media, and there are no real rules at this point. You know, it's interesting because going back to the 2000 election, that was the real watershed election when, as we all know, famously, the networks called Florida much too early for Al Gore. It was bitterly contested. It went to the Supreme Court. We didn't really have the final verdict on the president for another 5 weeks. Ever since then, all of the major networks in the U.S., from CNN to the ABCs to the NBCs, the CBSs, the Foxes, they've been honing their technique. But not only that, they've been much more cautious in the projections because let's be very careful. When Americans are getting their results tonight, they're not going to be told who the winner is. It's not that you actually call a state. You're making projections based on a certain percent of exit polls. It's when the networks feel, and this is an evolving science, that they can confidently say which way the final tally is going to go. So it's still evolving. They have to be very cautious. And given the high stakes in this campaign, and especially ahead of time, Donald Trump's campaign, especially talking about the possibility or him thinking that it's going to be a rigged vote, a rigged election outcome. They're going to want to be extremely cautious, extremely prudent not to do anything that can be construed in any way, shape, or form as calling this early or being able to draw accusations of tilting this election in any state, whether Senate or President, in Hillary Clinton's favor.
All right, Doug, continue to stand by there for us in Washington, D.C. We'll be back with you later for more on the situation there.